Many farmers in Uganda are turning to beekeeping following government intervention to help farmers improve their livelihood. The government says the practice is an economic activity that has the potential for contributing to poverty reduction in the country. Daniel Arapmoy brings us the story of a traditional bee farmer in rural Uganda and his wild bee taming techniques.
While some may claim there is low honey production in Africa, Uganda's experience seems different. According to the country's agriculture ministry, it is the incentive that has always been low. But the government, through development partners, is now helping hundreds of farmers across the country's regions to secure capital and establish systems. With an estimated 1.2 million beekeepers, Uganda produces 2,600 tons of honey and exports 1,800 tons every year. Information from officials shows that the target is at least 500,000 metric tons in the next 5 years, minus other hive products like beeswax, pollen, royal jelly, and bee venom. Beehives in Uganda are currently traditionally constructed from timber, despite the fact that hives in the country are usually crudely raided at night with the use of grass torches and fire to smoke out the bees. Sam Serunjoji, a local bee farmer, is changing this devastating method. It's early in the morning, and Serunjoji leads us to a nearby village path in what he says is his first bee taming expedition. We drive through a narrow bushy village road before we reach our destination, a deserted bush that one can hardly think of finding a swarm of bees ready for taming. Before setting off into the thicket, we make a stopover and Sam introduces us to a smoking can, bee veil, and wood husk covered in a green polythene bag. He lights up the smoking can in what he says helps him to reduce the hardship and unpredictability of harvesting from wild colonies. Little did we know that Sam Serunjoji, just like hundreds of other bee farmers in Uganda, had found ways to increase his control over bees through the ownership and management of colonies tamed from the wild and transferred into hives. He then leads us through the rough village path into the nearby bush, and soon he begins to clear the surroundings. With the help of his 14-year-old son, Sam Serunjoji begins digging through the anthill in search of wild swarms of bees. This is Sam's smoking can, which also works as a security that protects him from the bees. The digging continues, and soon we begin to see some bees coming out of the colony. Using a lot of smoke to drive the bees away from the combs, Sam removed one of the combs and took a bite. Sam applies more smoke into the hole and the number of bees coming out increases to a swarm. The task now is to look for the queen, and once the queen has been identified, the rest of the bees will surrender themselves to Sam, and he will capture them and take them to the beehive. I asked Sam if it's okay to join him in search of the queen, and he answered in the affirmative. We both begin our search for the queen of the colony, which unfortunately is not as easy as I thought. We continue looking through a swarm of bees clustering on a branch of a tree, but to no avail. Sam sprays the bees with water to wet their wings in a bid to reduce the risk of attack. The process took us approximately 30 minutes before Sam spotted the queen, tightly guarded by a swarm of soldiers. She finally surrendered to us, and Sam immediately clipped her wings to prevent her from flying away. This is the queen.
He's the queen. He's big. It is because they have beat him with water.
Sam holds the queen in his hand, and the rest of the bees begin swarming on his arm. In no time, Sam had tamed the entire colony with the queen captured. After taming the colony, Sam and I head back to the car and drive through the village towards the trading center where he lives. He emptied the bees in a hive, a process that left many villagers surprised and wondering how a man like Sam could capture this swarm of dangerous wild bees. Sam is among many other Ugandan bee farmers who are telling their success stories from beekeeping.
This place where we seated now, I've just bought it from the industry. I have another project which I've established from beekeeping to the other projects. I bought a land.
Currently, Seronjoji uses the traditional methods of beekeeping, which has earned him a nickname of King of the Bees because of his bravery in taming wild bees. Fred Katende is another bee farmer whose success story has inspired many Ugandans who have not yet taken up bee farming. He says his harvest in 2 seasons, as for 3 years running, paid his bills and tuition for his children.
The bees are generating income to our farms, so as we carry out an integrated system. You find out that we get money from bees after selling the honey. We get money from bees after processing the combs and get candles. That is value addition. So for us, being with the bees is one of the projects that helps us much.
Consolata Achayo is a spokesperson for Uganda's agricultural ministry, and she says the task at hand now is to improve the transport and storage of honey produced by the local farmers.
We still need to work very closely with the private sector to make sure that most of our bee farmers are trained and they're able to do the right thing. So I believe with that, we'll be able to achieve the 500,000 metric tons that we are projecting.
The country's president recently launched a countrywide campaign called Operation Wealth Creation to help farmers across the country improve their livelihood. The campaign is geared towards helping not only bee farmers, but also those engaged in other income-generating activities at the grassroots. The main objective is to see each household generate $10,000 annually for a better livelihood. Daniel Arap Moy for Reporters File.